Welcome to The Quiet Scientist. I'm so glad you're here. Whether you've just brushed your teeth, drawn the curtains, or curled up under a favorite blanket, wherever you are tonight, thank you for joining me in this little corner of calm. There's something oddly tender about warm milk, isn't there? The way it clings slightly to the cup, the way it steams just a little, not too much, just enough to fog the rim and leave a gentle glow on your fingertips. It carries the quiet promise of sleep without ever needing to say a word. But why does it feel that way? Why do so many people, across time and place, turn to a cup of warm milk before bed, tonight? We're going to follow that question, not in a race to answer it, but like a slow walk in soft slippers down a quiet hallway. We'll explore where this idea came from. We'll wander through the biology of hormones and amino acids. We'll pause at the scent of childhood, the rhythm of digestion, and even take a peek into cultural bedtime rituals from around the world. Now, I do hope this helps you relax, maybe even helps you drift gently into sleep. But just a small warning. The answer to why warm milk makes you sleepy is, surprisingly, quite interesting, maybe even strange. So, if you find yourself still awake a little while from now, tracing the steps of tryptophan through your body, well, at least you'll wake up tomorrow with something soft and nerdy to share over breakfast. Before we drift too far into tonight's story, a quiet like or subscribe would mean a lot, and helps the quiet scientist keep growing gently, one sleepy mind at a time. And if you're still awake, I'd love to know where you're listening from, and what time it is there. Oh, and just a small note. This isn't medical advice. We're not here to prescribe, just to wonder, reflect, and drift. Take one slow breath in, and let it go. Let's begin. Milk, this ordinary pale white liquid, has been with us for a very long time, before we even had cups, before language formed in the way we know it now, before fire was anything more than a distant danger on the horizon. There was milk, the first food after birth, the first warmth we ever feel from the inside. Before hands learned to write, they knew how to hold close, and they knew how to feed. For early humans, milk was not just nutrition, it was life. In the beginning, of course, it came from mothers. But as humans began to domesticate animals, sheep, goats, cows, the relationship deepened. Milk became the bridge between the wild and the human, the raw and the safe. Warm milk, fresh from the animal, would have been one of the few warm liquids available. No stoves, no microwaves, just body heat and fire. If you were lucky, imagine a world before refrigeration, before ceramic mugs or glass bottles, a world where milk spoiled quickly in the heat and could not be hoarded. If you drank it, it was often close to its original temperature, warm from the animal, maybe cooled slightly by a clay jug. You didn't boil it, not yet. You sipped it slowly, as the sky dimmed and the fires crackled low. Even as societies evolved, from the plains of Mesopotamia to the mountains of the Andes, milk retained its connection to nourishment, tenderness, and comfort. In ancient Rome, milk was sometimes offered to the gods as a symbol of purity. In early Ayurvedic texts, milk was praised not just for its physical benefit, but its spiritual qualities, seen as a carrier of calm, a way to soothe the body's heat and invite rest. And as cooking became more sophisticated, so did the ritual. The pot warmed over a low flame. The milk stirred slowly to avoid scalding, sometimes a dash of honey, a pinch of spice, but always the same rhythm, warm, slow, quiet. You can almost picture it, can't you? A parent in a small stone house, holding a clay bowl to a child's lips. The firelight flickering on the wall, the hush of nighttime beginning, and the milk, soft, warm, and familiar, doing what it's done for thousands of years, telling the body it's time to let go. That story, that feeling, echoes in us still. Of course, science hadn't caught up to it yet. For centuries, people knew warm milk made them feel sleepy, but no one really knew why. They just trusted it, passed the habit on, told stories, shared cups, until eventually someone decided to look deeper, to ask not just if, but how. And that's what we're going to do next. We're going to step into that warmth, into the gut, into the brain, into memory and ritual and chemistry, and follow the threads from comfort to calm, to sleep, but slowly, gently, one quiet sip at a time. You picture a flickering fire, not a modern flame behind glass, but a small, breathing thing, wild and crackling, its light casting dancing shadows along the stone walls of a simple home. It's quiet here. The sun has long since dipped below the horizon, and the air carries that hushed texture of night. Somewhere nearby, a child stirs, and a clay cup is lifted from the heat, warm milk swirling gently within. Long before sleep studies, before science and serotonin and REM cycles, humans already understood something, not with data, but with instinct. They knew that some things, like warmth, like rhythm, like the softness of milk, could bring the body to stillness. Milk, even before it was warmed, was a sacred thing. For the first humans, it was survival. It flowed from mother to child in those early, fragile hours after birth. Later, as herds were kept and animals tamed, it became part of the daily rhythm, a source of energy, yes, but also a thread of comfort woven into the quiet rituals of evening. In ancient Mesopotamia, clay tablets etched in cuneiform mentioned milk among daily rations and medicinal remedies. In Egypt, milk was part of purification rituals, and in early India, it was considered sattvic, pure, calming, and essential to mental clarity. Even then, the connection was more than physical. Milk was part nourishment, part symbolism, something soft, something safe, something you gave to those you loved, the sick, the young, the old. But why warm it? It likely began with necessity. Raw milk spoils quickly. Heating it extended its life, but over time, warmth took on a meaning of its own. It soothed the stomach. It slowed the drinker. In a world without electricity, the temperature of a drink was no small matter. Warmth was rare, precious, often reserved for the end of the day, when the work was done and stillness had permission to settle in. You might imagine yourself there, seated near a hearth, the world beyond your doorway, dark and vast, but your small space held in firelight. The warm cup in your hands is more than milk. It's a signal, a quiet shift. The day is over now. You are safe, you are home, and just like that, the body begins to relax. Over centuries, these associations deepened. In Greece, philosophers wrote of the humors, bodily fluids that needed balance for health. Milk, being white, cool, and moist, was said to calm fire and bile. In traditional Chinese medicine, milk was viewed with ambivalence, sometimes as damp-inducing, sometimes as nourishing yin, but always as a substance with a temperature and a mood. Everywhere milk appeared, it carried with it a story, not always the same story, but always a story tied to care, to evening, to easing, and warming it. That became part of the storytelling, too. Parents didn't just give children milk, they warmed it, stirred it, waited for the steam. It became a ritual not of feeding, but of feeling. There's something ancient in that gesture, in holding a cup, testing it against your wrist, then handing it off to someone smaller, someone tired, someone loved. Even now, it lingers. You may have memories of it. Warm milk in a patterned mug, the clink of a spoon, the way it felt on your lips after brushing your teeth. Or maybe your memory isn't of milk at all, but of the same ritual, in a different shape, a bedtime tea, a nighttime broth, a warm hand on your back. Because what we're really exploring here isn't just the milk, it's the warmth, the calm, the pause. You're not alone in that. Nearly every culture, in some form or another, has some kind of warm liquid linked to winding down. In Japan, it might be a simple miso broth. In Turkey, a cup of herbal apple tea. In Scandinavian homes, a milk and honey mixture called honungsvelling. Across the world, parents still stir small pots with care, hoping to guide restless little bodies towards sleep. It's the heat that does it, in part, but also the context, the repetition, the memory embedded in the motion. It's not just the substance, it's the story we wrap around it. Our ancestors didn't need double-blind trials to understand that. They had fires and instincts and generations of bedtime routines etched into the fabric of family. And somewhere along the way, warm milk became one of the quietest lullabies. This story has lasted a very long time, passed not through textbooks, but through kitchens, and tonight it passes to you. You feel that heat, even now, as if your hands remember it, as if some part of you, far beneath words, recognizes the gesture, the warmth, the comfort, the care. Soon, we'll begin to explore what's inside that milk, the molecules, the messengers, the quiet little chemicals that tiptoe through the body. But before we get there, let's linger in this feeling a little longer. Let's honor the history, the human ritual, the long, long thread of warm milk and sleep. Because what came next, the science, the studies, the understanding, only ever confirmed what people already knew, that this simple act could cradle the mind. So close your eyes for a moment, if they're not closed already. Let your shoulders fall just a little. Let the breath move in and out, soft and quiet. And when you're ready, we'll take a gentle step forward and follow that warm milk into the body itself. You breathe in through your nose, slowly. There's nothing in the air, not really, but still, something stirs. A trace of something soft, faintly sweet, not quite vanilla, not quite toast, but undeniably warm. It's the kind of smell that doesn't demand your attention, yet suddenly, everything else feels quieter. That's the thing about scent. It slips beneath the surface of thought, bypassing logic and language, and speaks directly to the oldest parts of your brain. No fanfare, just a whisper that says, "You've been here before. You are safe." Warm milk has a scent like that, subtle, milky, yes, but with undertones that are harder to name, especially when heated gently. There's a roundness to it, a softness, a note of something cooked, but not cooked through. For some, it smells like comfort, for others, like memory, and for many, like sleep itself. You may not have noticed it consciously, but your body has, over years, decades even. Each time you inhale that scent near bedtime, when the light was low, when the world was winding down, your brain quietly filed it away, not as data, but as feeling. And now, even the suggestion of that smell is enough to send a signal, to turn a key, to begin the process of letting go. This isn't imagination, it's biology, and it starts with the olfactory bulb, the part of your brain responsible for processing smell. But what makes it special is where it connects next, not just to the parts of the brain that recognize odor, but to the amygdala and hippocampus, the regions involved in emotion and memory. This is why smell is so powerful, more than sight, more than sound. A single scent can bring back not just a place or a person, but an entire emotional state. The smell of rain on warm pavement, a favorite soap, an old book, or warm milk. Each one is a portal, and they open without warning. You may have experienced this. A whiff of something forgotten, and suddenly, you're not just remembering a moment, you're in it. You feel the air, the tension, the calm, the way your heart moved in that exact second. Warm milk holds that power, especially for those who encountered it often in childhood or during quiet moments of care. Its smell becomes less about the liquid itself and more about what came with it. Someone's hand on your back, a lullaby, a softly closed door, the gentle hush of the world slowing down. Even if you didn't grow up with warm milk at bedtime, your brain is still trained to respond to patterns. If you've ever adopted it as a ritual, even for a short while, your body may have learned to recognize the pairing. Warm milk, dim light, stillness, sleep. It's a quiet form of conditioning, but instead of bells and treats, it's scent and softness. Your brain says, "Ah, yes, this again. It's time to settle." The response isn't dramatic. It doesn't rush in. It unfolds slowly, like a flower leaning toward dusk. And this isn't unique to milk. It's true of many nighttime scents: lavender, chamomile, even the faint smell of old pajamas or a favorite pillowcase. But milk has an advantage. It combines scent with temperature, taste, and texture, creating a full-bodied sensory experience. This is important because sleep doesn't come from a single switch being flipped. It comes from layers, cues stacked on cues. The body responds best when multiple senses agree. When your eyes see dim light, when your skin feels warmth, and when your nose catches a scent it knows is safe, that's when the nervous system begins to slow. It shifts you into what's called the parasympathetic state, often referred to as rest and digest. In this mode, your heart rate slows, muscles loosen, thoughts untangle. It's the body's natural counter to stress. And it starts with very small things: a smell, a breath, a cup held in both hands. You don't have to know the science for it to work. In fact, not knowing might be part of the magic. But still, your body does know, deeply, silently, and as you sit with your imaginary cup now, or perhaps a real one, cooling gently in your lap, you can almost feel that shift beginning. The scent has done its job, not by overwhelming, but by reminding. You're not rushing, you're not performing, you're just arriving at the edge of sleep. This is part of why warm milk has endured, despite skeptics and changing trends, because no matter what studies say or don't say, something about it just works, especially when it's part of a larger ritual, a quiet space, a slow evening, a moment of pause in a world that doesn't always allow it. The milk doesn't have to do all the work. It just needs to play its part, like a violinist in the background of a peaceful room, like a whisper in the dark. And it starts, always, with that smell, that first gentle inhale. So, if you're holding a cup now, breathe it in. Let it be more than just milk. Let it be memory. Let it be softness. Let it be sleep. Soon, we'll begin to trace what happens next, how the body begins to process what it tastes and drinks. The chemistry will arrive gently, like footsteps in another room. But for now, stay here. Linger in the air. Let the scent say what words cannot. You don't notice when it begins. Not really. Maybe it's the way your body shifts just slightly, curling in a little closer, or how your thoughts, once looping and sharp, begin to soften at the edges. Nothing loud announces the change. There's no chime or sudden hush, just the slow folding of one moment into the next, the transition from doing to being. That's the quiet magic of ritual. It doesn't have to be sacred or elaborate. It doesn't need candles or chants or special robes. A ritual, at its core, is simply something repeated with intention, something the body recognizes, a pattern that says, we've been here before, and we know what comes next. And sleep loves patterns. Your body craves them. In fact, it's built on them. Cycles of light and dark, warmth and cool, wakefulness and rest. Every cell in your body has a clock, not a ticking one, but a biochemical rhythm that responds to repetition. The more consistent the signals, the more easily the body responds. So, when you warm the milk, when you hold the same cup, when you sit in the same chair or dim the same lamp, you're doing more than passing time. You're setting the stage, cueing the actors, preparing the nervous system to release its grip and let the curtain fall. There's a reason bedtime rituals are so common with children. The story, the song, the stuffed animal always placed just so. It's not just comfort, it's a neurological lullaby, a way to coax the body into switching modes. But adults need lullabies too, not in rhyme or melody, perhaps, but in rhythm, in repetition, in intention. And warm milk fits so effortlessly into that role, because it's easy, because it doesn't ask much, because it doesn't try to fix or force or distract. It just shows up the same way, every night, and over time, that predictability becomes powerful. You see, your brain is always scanning for what's familiar, not because it's boring, but because it's safe. Predictability lowers alertness. It signals that there's no danger, that the environment is stable, that now is a good time to rest. The warmth of the milk, the sound of it pouring, the smell we spoke of before, each becomes part of a larger symphony of cues that lull the body downward, like a feather slowly drifting towards stillness. You might even notice it in your breathing, how it starts to deepen, how your shoulders loosen just a little, how the space between thoughts grows wider. These aren't tricks, they're invitations, gently offered, never forced. Some people write gratitude journals before bed. Others stretch, or hum, or trace their day in reverse like a path through the woods. But whatever the action, the power lies not in the act itself, but in the doing of it again and again, in the body saying, "Ah, this again. I know where this leads." Even the small act of placing your cup down after the last sip carries weight, a signal of closure, a soft period at the end of a long, wandering sentence. It's in this space, this in-between, that sleep begins to bloom, because the body doesn't sleep on command. It needs permission, it needs pathways, and ritual clears the way like footsteps in fresh snow. It makes the unfamiliar familiar, the busy quiet, the scattered whole. You may not think of your bedtime habits as rituals, but they are. And the more gently you approach them, the more deeply they work. Some people add honey to their milk. Others sprinkle cinnamon or cardamom. Some prefer it plain. It doesn't matter. What matters is the doing, the slow pour, the lifting of the cup, the way the steam rises and fades. Even the silence around the ritual matters. That stillness holds space. It amplifies the rhythm. It allows your thoughts to echo, then soften, then fade into something quieter. You might even think of your whole bedtime routine as a kind of personal ceremony, not to achieve sleep, but to allow it, to lay down the tools of the day and step into something gentler, something that doesn't require effort or answers. That's the deeper truth of ritual. It's not about control, it's about surrender. It says, I've done my part, now I let go. And warm milk is especially good at helping you let go. It holds no urgency. It makes no demands. It's not a pill or a promise. It's just warmth in a cup. Familiar, simple, reassuring, and in that simplicity, something ancient stirs. A memory older than memory. A a signal written into your bones. Because you've known warmth before, in the arms of someone safe, in the crook of a quiet night, in the soft heaviness of a full belly and an empty calendar. Warm milk brings those memories forward, not as thoughts, but as feelings, as sensations, as a quiet settling of the soul, and as you sit now, or lie down, or drift just slightly toward the edge, you may notice that your body is already responding, that the ritual is working, even if you didn't mean it to. That's the beauty of it. You don't have to try. You just have to show up with your cup, with your breath, with your quiet willingness to slow. And when you do, sleep often follows. Not as a guest barging in, but as an old friend slipping in through the back door, unnoticed, welcomed all the same. Soon, we'll begin to look at what happens once the milk is swallowed, the journey it takes through the body, through stomach and gut and bloodstream, the chemistry behind the calm. But for now, just rest here, in the rhythm, in the quiet, in the comfort of doing something small. That means something big. And so, the cup is empty now. Your hands rest lightly in your lap, maybe still holding a bit of that warmth. The scent lingers in the air, faint and friendly, like the last note of a lullaby. And inside your body, something has already begun, quietly, without fanfare, because now the milk is no longer in the cup. It has entered the deeper spaces of you, the inner corridors, the warm chambers where so much of your body's magic happens without your noticing. It begins in the mouth, of course, with the slow swirl of milk across your tongue, the soft signal sent to the brain. Food is here, it's safe, and it's gentle. The sweetness is subtle, not sugary, but natural. And that alone begins to stir the parasympathetic nervous system, that slow-moving current of calm that helps you rest and restore. As you swallow, the milk makes its way down the esophagus, a path that feels simple, but is anything but. Muscles coordinate in perfect rhythm to guide the liquid toward your stomach, without noise, without drama, just the quiet choreography of digestion, a dance that unfolds whether you're awake or already half dreaming. And once the milk reaches your stomach, the real journey begins. The warmth of the milk has a surprising role here. Unlike cold beverages, which can jolt the system into mild alertness, warm liquids are embraced. The stomach does not resist. It opens, it welcomes, and the muscles, those long, spiraling bands that line your digestive tract, begin their slow, wave-like movement known as peristalsis. There's something poetic about it, isn't there? The idea that your body waves goodnight to what you've just taken in, rocking it gently through its own internal cradle. The milk, now part of you, continues downward, not in a rush, but in a lullaby of movement. And this movement isn't just mechanical, it's chemical. Signals are sent, hormones stirred. Enzymes awaken from their idle rest. Lactase arrives to break down the lactose. Pepsin and stomach acid begin to unfold the proteins in the milk, including casein, which digests slowly, releasing its nutrients over time. The fats in the milk begin to dissolve, floating and settling like lazy clouds in a warm sky. All of this might sound technical, but in your body, it feels like stillness, like warmth pooling in your center, like heaviness in the best possible way. The kind of heaviness that anchors you, that says, you don't have to do anything now. Just let the body take it from here. And it does. The gut, often overlooked, is one of the most influential parts of your entire nervous system. It's lined with millions of neurons. It produces many of the same chemicals as your brain. In fact, it's often called the second brain. But unlike your first brain, this one doesn't think in words or worries. It thinks in feelings, in flow, in fullness. So, as the milk continues its quiet descent, Your gut does something extraordinary. It speaks softly to the rest of your body. It sends signals upward, to the brain, to the heart, to the lungs. It whispers, "We are nourished. We are safe. We are still." That communication changes everything. Your heart rate slows. Your breathing evens out. Muscles throughout your limbs loosen their grip. The lights behind your eyes dim just slightly more. And there's another layer still, the hormonal one. When your stomach receives warm, nourishing food, especially in the absence of stimulation or stress, it helps release a cascade of calming hormones. Among them, cholecystokinin, CCK. A mouthful of a name, but a gentle friend. CCK not only helps with digestion, but contributes to the sensation of satiety, that lovely feeling of being full, not stuffed, just satisfied, done for the day. There's also ghrelin, the hunger hormone, which begins to fade now. Its voice quiets. And as it does, the louder voice of calm is allowed to take over. All of this is happening without your conscious help. You don't have to think about it. Your body knows. It always has. And in the stillness of night, with no competing noises, no clattering forks or flashing screens, you can almost sense it happening. The deep hush of the body's inner work, like monks in candlelit chambers, moving slowly through their rituals. You might notice a warmth in your belly, not from the milk anymore, but from the process it began. A warm weight, a glow. It's not just digestion, it's preparation. Your body is moving towards sleep in waves, and each wave begins in the gut. The ancient link between food and rest is written into your DNA. After a good meal, especially one taken slowly, one that's warm and mild, the body naturally seeks stillness, not to burn calories, but to repair, to integrate, to shift from action to absorption. And milk, with its gentle proteins and soothing fats, is uniquely suited for this. It digests slowly, steadily, without spikes of energy. It doesn't demand attention, it eases in. This is why a small cup of warm milk at night can be more powerful than a large meal. It offers comfort without effort, nourishment without demand. And your gut, your second brain, knows the difference. So, as the milk continues its quiet journey, your body continues to soften. You may feel heavier now, not weighed down, but held, as though something inside you is tucking in for the night. The ritual has ended. The digestion has begun. The quiet chemistry is already at work. And next, we'll follow one of milk's most famous ingredients, one you may have heard of, as it begins its path toward the brain. A sleepy little molecule with a sleepy little name, tryptophan. But for now, rest here. Feel the warmth in your center. Feel the stillness rising from deep within. You don't need to know every step. You just need to trust that something lovely is unfolding, quietly, invisibly, just beneath the surface. So now, inside you, the milk continues its quiet transformation. Proteins are unfolding, fats are dissolving, and the body, that wise and wordless place, is gently absorbing what it needs. But nestled among the proteins, tucked away in the soft chemistry of milk, is one particularly sleepy molecule, tryptophan. You've probably heard its name before, maybe in passing, maybe in connection with turkey, or naps after holiday meals. It's often mentioned as a kind of shorthand for drowsiness, as though this one little molecule carries with it a warm blanket and a lullaby. And while that might be a simplification, the truth it points to is beautifully real. Tryptophan is an amino acid, one of the building blocks of protein. Your body doesn't make it on its own. It has to come from food, and milk happens to be a gentle and reliable source. It's not the only source, of course. It's found in eggs, cheese, seeds, and even bananas. But in warm milk, It arrives in just the right way, slow, subtle, and surrounded by softness. Once tryptophan enters your digestive tract, it begins a journey that's not just chemical, but poetic. Because its destination is not the stomach or the liver or the gut, it's the brain, specifically the parts of your brain that govern mood, rest, and sleep. But getting there isn't easy. Tryptophan has to compete with other amino acids, each one clamoring for a place on the transporter molecules that carry them across the blood-brain barrier. It's a bit like waiting in line at a very exclusive club. Tryptophan is small, quiet, patient. It waits. And sometimes it wins. What helps it most is context. When your body is calm, when insulin is present, often after a meal with carbohydrates, and when you're not filling your system with noisy stimulants, that's when tryptophan gets its chance. So, in the stillness of night, with your belly warm and content, and your senses quiet, tryptophan takes its place. It crosses into the brain, and once it arrives, it doesn't act alone. It's converted, gently, step by step, into something else, serotonin. You may know serotonin as the feel-good neurotransmitter. It's responsible for mood regulation, emotional balance, and a general sense of calm. But what you might not know is that serotonin is also the doorway to sleep, because as night deepens and the light around you fades, serotonin becomes the raw material for another molecule, melatonin. We'll meet melatonin more fully later. But for now, think of tryptophan as the seed. It's planted quietly, watered by enzymes, fed by the body's rhythm, and in the darkness, it blooms. This process doesn't happen with the speed of caffeine. It's not a jolt, it's a drift, a progression, a winding path from warmth to calm to sleep. And while tryptophan isn't a sedative in itself, it's a builder, a bridge. It lays the foundation for the chemistry of rest. You may not feel it happening, but you might notice about 30 or 40 minutes after your last sip of milk that your thoughts are softer, that your eyelids are heavier, that you're not quite here, but not quite asleep either. You're somewhere in between, and that's exactly where tryptophan is meant to take you. There's something comforting in knowing this, in imagining that your body is working for you, even now, that this tiny molecule, so quiet, so invisible, is carving a pathway through your brain, smoothing edges, softening walls, dimming lights. And it's not just chemistry, it's continuity, because remember, you've invited tryptophan in before, not just tonight, but many nights before it. Every time you made the choice to slow down, to breathe, to sip something warm, the pathway becomes clearer each time, like a forest trail that remembers your steps. And though the idea that tryptophan makes you sleepy is a bit of an oversimplification, it's not wrong. It just doesn't act alone. It's part of an orchestra, a single, steady note in a much larger composition. One that includes hormones, habits, temperature, memory, and time. And warm milk, it's like the conductor's baton. It brings the players together. It sets the tempo. It lets the music unfold. The next time you take a sip, maybe you'll think of tryptophan, not as a magic bullet, but as a quiet friend. One that doesn't need to shout to be heard. One that simply waits until you're ready. And right now, you are. Your breath has slowed. Your mind has softened. You've followed the milk from mouth to stomach, from gut to bloodstream, and now, molecule by molecule, it's settling into the spaces of the brain that cradle thought and feeling. It's beautiful. Really? That something so small can make such a difference. That a single amino acid, released in the hush of night, can help you drift towards sleep not by force, but by invitation. And of course, tryptophan isn't the only player in this story. Serotonin has a chapter to tell, and melatonin, That moonlight molecule is waiting in the wings. But for now, stay here. Feel the simplicity of it, the quiet, the ease. You've done nothing dramatic. You've followed no elaborate protocol. Just a cup of warm milk, a breath, a pause, and a molecule moving gently through you, like a hush passing through a room. And now, tryptophan has completed the first part of its journey, from the warmth of a familiar cup to the chemical corridors of your brain. It's quietly transformed, not with sparks or noise, but with slow, patient precision, into serotonin. You might not feel it as it happens. There's no click, no hum, no little light that flickers on. But serotonin has a way of making itself known, even in silence. It arrives like a gentle tide, lifting you just slightly above the noise of the day. Its presence is more sensation than event, like stepping into a softly lit room, or hearing a familiar lullaby begin before the first words even form. Serotonin is often thought of as the happy chemical, and that's partly true, but more than happiness, it brings steadiness, balance. It's not the spark of joy, but the long exhale after it. It's the feeling that nothing is urgent, that everything is just for a moment. Okay. And when serotonin levels rise in the right conditions, when the body is at rest, when the mind is free of sudden demands, its influence deepens, not in excitement, but in ease. You don't feel more awake. You feel more allowed to fall asleep, like someone has unlocked a gate inside you and simply left it open. What's remarkable is that serotonin doesn't work in isolation. It has a subtle conversation with nearly every system in the body. It touches mood, yes, but also digestion, memory, and even temperature regulation. It moves like a low current through the body's inner landscape, guiding processes into harmony, not commanding, just encouraging. And this is where warm milk becomes more than food, more than comfort. It becomes a partner in a slow, chemical conversation, one that tells your brain, you can stop trying now, you can let go. Because sleep doesn't come through force, it comes through surrender, and serotonin is often the first whisper that guides you there. The path from tryptophan to serotonin isn't immediate. It winds through enzymes and receptors, each step depending on light levels, time of day, and the body's natural rhythms. But with the right conditions, dim lighting, a quiet room, and the absence of stimulation, it flows like a river freed of debris. And right now, as your body grows heavier and your mind more diffuse, that river is flowing in you. You might feel it as a softening of thoughts. The sharp edges of the day blur. The questions that once tugged at you seem less insistent. It's not that they've been answered, only that they no longer need to be. Not right now, not in this space. That's serotonin at work, the quiet alchemist of the mind. It prepares you, but it also protects you. By regulating emotional responses, it helps buffer you against the lingering echoes of stress. That thing someone said, that worry about tomorrow. They're still there, but distant now, as if viewed through frosted glass. Unthreatening, manageable. Even your physical state begins to shift. Serotonin gently modulates the autonomic nervous system, helping shift your body into parasympathetic mode. That's the rest and digest mode you heard about earlier. It lowers your heart rate, encourages deeper breathing, and tells your muscles that it's okay to be soft now. And serotonin has one more gift to offer. Because when night truly falls, when the light in your room grows dim, when your eyes have adjusted to the dark, serotonin becomes something else entirely. It transforms again, this time into melatonin. But not too fast, not all at once. Like a story passed from one voice to another, serotonin hands off the narrative of rest to melatonin, the hormone of darkness, the signal of sleep. That transformation depends on light, or more specifically, the absence of it. When the retina senses darkness, it sends a message to the pineal gland, a small, pine cone-shaped structure tucked deep in the center of your brain. There, serotonin is gently converted into melatonin. No sparks, no rush, just chemistry unfolding like moonlight over water. But we'll follow melatonin more fully soon. For now, let's stay with serotonin, because this is the moment of in-between, of softening, but not quite stillness, of release, but not quite dreams. It's the glow before the fade, the hush before the silence, and serotonin holds that space. In many ways, this is the point at which milk, and all the rituals surrounding it, become most powerful. Not because they knock you out, not because they contain sleep in a bottle, but because they help you hover in this space just long enough for sleep to find you. And once you've reached this place often enough, the brain begins to associate it, the cup, the scent, the warmth, the stillness, the softness that spreads through you after tryptophan arrives, and serotonin begins to sing its silent song. You may not feel sleepy right away, but you do feel less awake. And sometimes, that's all sleep needs to begin, because sleep doesn't demand unconsciousness all at once. It begins with disinterest, with stillness, with silence, with a body that no longer fidgets, and a mind that's grown just bored enough with its own thoughts to let go. Serotonin helps you get there, like a warm hand on the back of your head, guiding you gently toward the pillow. So, if your eyes are heavier now, if your thoughts move more slowly, if the world outside your room feels farther away than it did before, that's not an accident. That's the body responding to what you've given it. A gift that begins with a cup of warm milk and ends, not yet, but soon, in the tender hold of sleep. You don't need to understand every step of it to receive it. You only need to trust that something inside you knows what to do, and in the next breath, will follow serotonin one step further, to that quiet little chemical that only appears when darkness deepens. Melatonin is waiting, but for now, rest in the glow. And now, the light fades. Not all at once, but gradually, a slow dimming of sensation, of thought, of presence. The glow you've been drifting in begins to cool, turning inward, growing quieter still. That soft chemical hum of serotonin you've been resting in starts to shift, subtly, seamlessly, into something even more mysterious. Something woven entirely out of night. Melatonin. You may have heard the name, perhaps spoken by a doctor, read on a label, or murmured in a conversation about sleep. It sounds almost like a lullaby in itself, a combination of melos, the Greek word for black, and tonin, a familiar suffix found in many chemical names. Blackness and calm, wrapped into one small word. Melatonin is not a sedative. It doesn't knock you out or override your body's natural rhythms. Instead, it's a signal. A message passed softly from one system to another, saying, "The time for wakefulness is over." It is not the command to sleep, but the gentle permission, the cue. And it begins with darkness. As the sun sets and your environment dims, your eyes begin to adjust. The photoreceptors in your retina, which have spent all day responding to brightness, now respond to its absence. They send a signal through a long neural pathway, all the way to the pineal gland, a tiny structure nestled deep in your brain, the size of a grain of rice. That signal is a quiet one. No flash, no shout, just a subtle change in the frequency of light, a shift from blue to black, and the pineal gland, like a watchmaker, begins its work. Serotonin, still humming gently in your system from the earlier tryptophan, is converted into melatonin, a slow alchemy, A nighttime spell cast in molecules. The levels of melatonin in your bloodstream begin to rise, almost imperceptibly at first, but your body knows. The signal has been sent, and everything starts to change. Your core body temperature drops slightly, a natural process, one your body uses to conserve energy and signal that the day is ending. Your heart rate slows a little more. Your breathing deepens. Even your digestion eases into a quieter rhythm. Systems that have been active, alert, responsive, now begin to quiet down. The world outside your window might still be moving, cars, screens, conversations, but inside you, the lights are dimming. One by one, melatonin doesn't just prepare you for sleep. It helps maintain the structure of your sleep cycles. It cues the body not only to fall asleep, but to fall into the right kind of sleep at the right time. It helps regulate the phases of REM and deep sleep. It nudges your brain into the right patterns, so that rest can happen not just fully, but well. This is one of the many reasons sleep that follows a quiet, natural ritual, like a cup of warm milk, feels different than sleep that comes suddenly, from exhaustion or overstimulation. The body isn't just shutting down, it's stepping gracefully through each stage, like a dancer moving through the cues of a well-rehearsed routine. And melatonin is there, just beneath it all, keeping time. The beautiful thing is that you don't have to direct any of this. You don't have to think about your pineal gland, or measure your hormone levels, or remember any of the science. Your body is already doing the work. All it needed was the invitation, and warm milk, in its quiet, ancient way. Help send that invitation, not by being powerful, not by being fast, but by aligning with everything your body already knows. Tryptophan led to serotonin. Serotonin, in the hush of darkness, became melatonin. And melatonin is now guiding you gently toward a deeper state of rest. It's interesting to think that something so small, something invisible, could hold so much influence. But then again, so much of sleep is invisible. It happens behind closed eyes, in rooms left silent, in hours few ever witness. It is one of the most essential things we do, and one of the most mysterious. And melatonin, the whisper behind it all, rarely asks for credit. It simply appears, right when it's needed, when the light fades, when the body is quiet, when you are ready. You might feel it now, not as a wave crashing in, but as a slow drift, like floating in a tide you can't see but can sense. A feeling that thought is becoming mist, that your edges are softening, that the weight of your body has shifted, not in mass, but in intention. You are moving inward. You are letting go. And melatonin is simply the signal that makes this feel safe. That makes sleep seem not just possible, but welcome. Like an old friend who never asks anything of you, except that you close your eyes and rest. There are people who take melatonin supplements, of course, pills and drops and sprays, and for some, they help. But your body has its own wisdom, its own rhythm, and when you offer it quiet, consistency, and the gentle chemistry of ritual, it knows what to do. You've given it everything it needs: warmth, stillness, darkness, familiarity. A single cup of milk, warmed by intention, was enough to start the process. And now, you're almost there. Sleep is no longer a distant idea, waiting on the other side of noise and effort. It is here, close, breathing beside you, ready when you are. Melatonin does not insist. It does not pull. It simply opens the door. And so, the path continues. Downward, inward, from the scent of milk, to the feel of breath, to the quiet rearranging of your cells as they prepare to rest. In the next moment, we'll explore how your body's internal clock, the circadian rhythm, responds to this slow unfolding, how light, time, and chemistry move together in one delicate dance. But for now, let the whisper be enough. Let the darkness hold you. Let the quiet deepen. Somewhere inside you, deeper than bones, quieter than breath, there's a clock. It doesn't tick or chime or hang on the wall. It doesn't run on batteries or gears. And yet, it keeps time with stunning accuracy. It tells your body when to wake, when to eat, when to rest. It guides the rise and fall of hormones, the rhythm of temperature, even the ebb and flow of your energy and mood. This clock is your circadian rhythm, and though it never stops, it doesn't run on its own. It listens, it watches, it waits for clues, for signals, for light, for darkness, for repetition. It's not just an internal engine, it's a conversation between your body and your world. Right now, melatonin is quietly rising in your bloodstream, shaped by the darkness in the room around you. But it's not working alone. It's answering to the master clock, a small cluster of cells in the brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN for short, tucked inside the hypothalamus. The SCN is like a conductor, guiding the tempo of every system in your body. It's triggered primarily by light, especially blue light. Morning sunlight tells it to release cortisol, the hormone that helps you feel awake and alert. Evening darkness tells it to begin producing melatonin, to wind you down. But it listens to other cues too: temperature, food, social interaction, sound, stillness, and ritual. This is where warm milk enters the conversation again. When you drink it at the same time each night, in the same way, under the same lighting, your body begins to recognize it not just as a drink, but as a message, a cue, a whisper to the master clock. We're getting ready now. It doesn't need to be loud. In fact, it works better when it's not. Your circadian rhythm loves gentle consistency. It thrives on signals that arrive not as shouts, but as nudges. And few things nudge more sweetly than a warm cup held in still hands, sipped under soft lamplight, in a room that's growing darker by the minute. Even the temperature of the milk matters. Warmth signals evening, safety, a slowing down. Cool drinks tend to wake the system up. They tell the body it's time to engage, to respond, to stay alert. But warmth invites rest. It lowers core temperature gradually, which helps cue the natural shift towards sleepiness. And over time, if you repeat the habit, the same chair, the same mug, the same lighting, your body begins to expect it. Your circadian rhythm absorbs the pattern. It starts preparing long before your head hits the pillow. Hormones shift, muscles release, heart rate falls. The clock doesn't just keep time anymore, it becomes time. You may not feel this shift consciously. There's no big internal announcement, but you know it in your own way. You might feel it as a heaviness behind your eyes, as a warmth in your chest, as a thinning of thought, a moment where you realize, quietly, I'm ready. And that readiness isn't just physical, it's mental, too. Your brain, like your body, responds to rhythm, to light, yes, but also to familiarity, to storytelling, to symbols. That cup of milk becomes a symbol, a bridge from wakefulness to rest, a tiny ceremony repeated until it becomes instinct. You can think of the circadian rhythm as a tide, rising and falling each day. But you can also think of it as a garden, responsive, alive, shaped by its environment. Give it the right care, and it flourishes. Confuse it with irregular hours, erratic meals, and bright lights at midnight, and it loses its sense of timing. It can't coordinate the body's internal symphony quite as clearly. Sleep becomes foggy, energy misaligns, mood shifts. But gentle routines, like dimming the lights at the same hour, turning off screens, sipping something warm, these are ways of tending to the garden. And warm milk, It's like compost and water and shade all at once. A small act that feeds something much larger. There's also something else at play here, something less chemical and more human. When you repeat a bedtime ritual, night after night, you're not just speaking to your biology, you're speaking to yourself. You're saying, I care for you. I will slow down for you. I will make a little space, just for rest. That message matters. It soothes parts of you that even melatonin can't reach. Because the truth is, we don't just fall asleep, we allow ourselves to sleep. And that can take trust, a certain surrender, a belief that the world will keep spinning while you drift. Your circadian rhythm, with its elegant loops and cues, does its best to help. It listens for signals. It marks the passing of light and dark. It remembers. And warm milk becomes one more voice in its quiet choir. You might not realize it, but by doing something so simple, you're participating in a long, invisible dance, one that stretches across all life on Earth. Plants open to the sun and fold in darkness. Animals stir with the dawn and curl up with dusk. We're part of that rhythm too, even when we try to outpace it. But you're not outpacing anything tonight. Tonight, you are moving in time, in sync, aligned, and the warm milk you sipped, long gone from the cup, now moving gently through you, is a reminder that your body remembers what to do. That rest is not a problem to be solved, but a rhythm to be returned to. Soon, we'll explore how memory and emotion intertwine with this ritual, how your personal history shapes your body's response to comfort and care. But for now, just notice this. The clock is ticking, not loudly, not harshly, but in rhythm with your breath, in the soft dark of night. Let it carry you. Let it guide you. Let it tell you, without words. It's time. Time continues to drift, not in minutes or hours, but in feeling, and somewhere. As your breath slows and your limbs grow heavier, something unexpected happens. A flicker, a sensation, a thought not quite formed. You don't plan for it. You don't summon it. But it arrives anyway, soft and sudden, like a leaf landing in your palm, a memory. Maybe you're not even sure it's a memory at first. It could be the echo of a voice, the glimpse of a hallway lamp, the sound of a cabinet gently closing. Something ordinary, tender, and long ago. Something you haven't thought of in years, or ever tried to. But now, in this stillness, in this place softened by milk and melatonin, it returns. This is not coincidence. This is chemistry, because sleep and memory are more closely linked than we often realize. And warm milk, with its gentle nudges and familiar rhythm, can unlock the quiet doorways where memory lives. Part of this begins with serotonin, the calming chemical we met earlier. It doesn't just ease mood, it also helps modulate memory, specifically emotional memory, which means that in these soft, in-between moments, the brain becomes more likely to retrieve feelings rather than facts, the kind of memories that aren't always sharp in detail, but rich in atmosphere. And what do those memories tend to contain? Warmth, comfort, care, the same ingredients you've just given your body. Maybe you remember being held, or sitting at the kitchen table while someone stirred a pot on the stove. Maybe it's just the sensation of being small and safe, of having nothing to do but close your eyes when the night arrived. These memories are stored deep, not always in words, sometimes in scents, in sounds, in a softness in the chest. And they're activated more easily when the brain begins to transition into rest. This is part of why warm milk feels like more than a drink, why it sometimes feels like being taken care of, even if you're alone, even if no one else is in the room. The action of warming the milk, holding the cup, sipping slowly, all of it echoes the kinds of care we remember from childhood, or wished we had. And the body doesn't always distinguish between actual memory and felt experience. It simply responds. It softens. It believes. That's the quiet wonder of memory, and the gentle power of ritual to stir it. Even if you didn't grow up with warm milk, the gesture itself is enough to invite that sense of return, that moment of emotional recognition, because you've experienced care in other ways. Maybe not from parents or bedtime stories, maybe from a friend, a grandparent, a pet curling up beside you, the texture of a blanket, the hush of a room when someone turned off the light without being asked. Your body keeps those moments, and warm milk, in all its ordinary simplicity, can become a thread that ties them together, a vessel, a symbol, a memory you make now that speaks in the language of then. This is especially true if the habit is repeated. If warm milk becomes part of your nightly rhythm, your brain will begin to associate it not just with relaxation, but with you, with your own form of comfort, your own chosen memory lane. And memory isn't just about the past. It's about continuity. When you give yourself gentle experiences over and over, they begin to write new emotional stories. They build a sense of safety. And that safety, more than anything, is what helps sleep come. Because what is sleep, if not the most vulnerable thing we do? We let go of our thoughts, we surrender our awareness, we close our eyes to the world, and we do it, ideally, in trust. But trust doesn't always come easily. For many, sleep is restless. Memories don't soothe, they stir. The body doesn't unwind, it holds on. And rituals like warm milk aren't magic in those moments. But they are kindness, repetition, a signal that says, it's okay to try again. Even a single moment of peace matters, even if sleep doesn't arrive right away. The act of remembering comfort, of offering it to yourself, carries weight. It's not indulgence, it's care. And care, especially self-care, leaves traces in the brain. It teaches you what rest can feel like, what safety can sound like, what memory, rewritten with gentleness, might become. So, tonight, you sit quietly with your empty cup, and whether you've sipped milk 1,000 times or just once, your body begins to hum with recognition, with memory, with permission. You are not trying to solve anything. You are not chasing rest. You are returning to something ancient and tender and yours. And that return doesn't need to be loud. In fact, it works best in quiet. So let the memories come. If they do, let them rise like mist and pass like wind. Let them be small and strange and comforting. Let them have no meaning at all. Or let them simply be warmth in the chest, a loose breath, a small smile in the dark. Because next, we'll shift again, gently, slowly, to the senses, to the way warm milk speaks not just through scent or memory, but through texture and touch, through the way it coats the tongue, warms the belly, stills the hands. But for now, you are here, half in the past, half in the now, and all of it is safe. The clock continues its quiet count. The breath continues its slow return, and you, perhaps, are not quite asleep, but you are somewhere very close. You haven't moved much, maybe you've barely shifted at all. Your breath is low and steady now, like the quiet swaying of a branch in the dark. Around you, the room has grown still, or maybe it always was. It's hard to tell now. The world feels softer at the edges, as if the corners have been rounded off and everything is wrapped in a quiet blur. That's the space you're in, not asleep, not fully awake, just gently suspended. And as you linger here, something curious happens. You begin to notice the body again, not in its aches or demands, but in its sensations, subtle things. like the feeling of your hands resting where they are, the way the fabric brushes lightly against your skin, the memory of warmth from the cup, long since emptied but still present in your palms, almost like a ghost, and from somewhere inside you, a sense of weight, of contentment, of fullness, not just in your stomach, but in your senses. That's part of what makes warm milk so comforting. It doesn't just work through chemistry or memory, it also speaks the language of touch, taste, and texture. Even now, you can probably recall the way the milk felt in your mouth, thick but smooth, soft but present. It doesn't rush, it lingers, it coats the tongue gently, almost like a blanket for your taste buds. There's no fizz, no sharpness, no extremes, just warmth, neutral sweetness, a quiet persistence. This is what scientists call mouthfeel, and it plays a surprisingly powerful role in how we experience food and how our nervous systems respond to it. Liquids with a creamy, velvety texture trigger a cascade of soothing signals in the brain. They suggest nourishment, safety, and low effort. The jaw doesn't have to chew. The tongue doesn't have to fight. The throat swallows easily. The whole process becomes one long exhale, effortless and calm. Your taste buds, too, send messages, not just about flavor, but about what that flavor means. Sweetness, especially mild and natural sweetness, often signals rest. It tells the brain, this is not danger, this is not alertness, this is peace and warm milk, particularly if it's plain or lightly sweetened, hits that exact mark. It's not designed to excite, it's designed to settle, and the body responds accordingly. There's also temperature to consider. We've talked about warmth before, but now you feel it differently, not just as an external sensation, but as something that touches every part of you from the inside out. Warm beverages, when consumed slowly, cause a gentle dilation of blood vessels. This process is called vasodilation, and it allows more blood to flow toward the skin's surface. You feel that as a kind of glowing warmth, a spreading sense of calm through your chest, your belly, your fingertips. Your core body temperature may even begin to drop slightly after this, which is one of the natural triggers for sleep. So, in a way, the milk is tricking your body, not by force, but by suggestion, by mimicking the same physical cues your body expects to feel when it's time to rest. Heavy limbs, low temperature, gentle fullness, a warm core that slowly releases into cool stillness. It's a full-body lullaby, and your senses are the instruments. You may have noticed that certain textures, not just in food but in life, have this calming effect too. The softness of a favorite shirt, the smooth edge of a blanket pulled up to your chin, the even rhythm of rocking in a chair. These are sensory cues that echo safety, that tell the nervous system there is no danger here. And milk, through its texture, joins that list. The body doesn't have to prepare for action. It's not being startled or overstimulated. It's being swaddled from the inside. You don't need to intellectualize this. In fact, it works better if you don't. Just let yourself notice how the memory of the milk feels, even now. The way it seemed to settle in your belly. The way your tongue stopped searching once it touched the warmth. The way your shoulders dropped a little after the second sip. All of that is texture, too. Not just in the milk, but in the moment. And your body has been listening closely. There's also a connection between the act of drinking something warm and self-soothing. You may not have realized it at the time, but lifting a warm cup to your lips, holding it gently between both hands, tilting your head forward ever so slightly. These are the same physical movements we associate with care, with prayer, with quiet thought, with rest. It's not just the milk that matters. It's what the milk asks you to do, to slow down, to pay attention, to breathe, to create a pause in the rhythm of your day. and to let that pause stretch out into the night. And now, as your body continues to lean into sleep, those sensations remain, even if the cup is long gone, even if the warmth has faded. The body remembers the message. The nervous system remembers the softness. The milk has already done its part, and your senses have done theirs. Soon, we'll move deeper into the body's inner dance, the way digestion itself becomes a signal for rest. How the very act of breaking down the milk becomes another cue that it's time to let go. But for now, rest in the way things feel, the way your tongue once moved more slowly, the way your chest lifted and settled, the way your thoughts have grown quiet, almost indistinct. This is texture. This is taste. This is the body saying, I am safe enough to sleep. And slowly, maybe even now, it begins. And now, deep within, another rhythm begins. It doesn't drum or hum or make itself known through noise. It doesn't demand attention, but it is moving, slowly, patiently, a quiet choreography unfolding just beneath the surface, one that your body has performed for you countless times before, without ever needing applause. This is digestion. The warm milk you drank earlier has begun its journey through you, not as something foreign or separate, but as something invited in, something accepted. Its sweetness has faded from your tongue, its warmth no longer held in your hands, but its presence is far from gone. It has entered the long corridor of your gut. And there, the slow dance begins. Peristalsis. That's the word for the wave-like motion that carries food through your digestive system. It's not a push, not a shove, but a gentle squeezing, a rolling tide that ushers each molecule forward. The walls of your intestines contract and release in perfect time, like an ocean current beneath the surface of sleep. This movement is automatic, of course. You don't think about it, you don't control it, but it's one of the oldest, most reliable patterns your body knows. A rhythm of nourishment, a pattern of peace. And when the food being digested is warm, simple, and soothing, like milk, the process becomes even more relaxed. The body doesn't need to rush. There are no alarms to raise, just a slow unfolding of sustenance into energy. What's more, the act of digestion itself contributes to your drowsiness, not just by creating fullness or warmth, but by engaging the parasympathetic nervous system, the same branch of your body's wiring that encourages rest, healing, and recovery. This part of your system is often called the rest and digest mode. And it's no coincidence those two words come together, because for the body, resting and digesting go hand in hand. One invites the other. Right now, as your stomach gently contracts and enzymes do their quiet work, your heart rate has likely dropped a little more. Your muscles, now free of tasks, have softened. Your limbs feel heavier. Your mind, no longer needed to navigate the world, is beginning to recede, like the tide moving back from the shore. You might feel that as a pulling inward, a gathering of attention, not sharp, not focused, just quietly folding in. And the milk, it doesn't rush through this system. It lingers, especially the proteins, like casein, which digest slowly and steadily over time. This slow release means there's no spike in energy, no crash, just a continued hum of satiety, a warm, sleepy fullness that helps you drift. There's also another chemical contributor at work now, one we haven't mentioned yet, but whose presence you may be familiar with, even if not by name: GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid. This neurotransmitter acts like a brake pedal in the nervous system. It slows neuronal activity, it calms the brain, it hushes the chatter, and certain peptides released during the digestion of milk have been shown to stimulate GABA receptors, reinforcing that sense of calm, that gentle fading of thought, That sensation that there's nothing left to figure out tonight. It's as if digestion itself becomes a lullaby, a biological metronome ticking slower and slower until the room inside you is quiet. And all the while, your body continues its graceful work. Fats are absorbed, sugars are processed, nutrients are sorted and stored. It's like the cleaning crew after a quiet evening gathering. Nothing dramatic, just tidying up, resetting the space, preparing it for tomorrow. And this work, though invisible, requires energy. Not a lot, not like running or thinking or speaking, but enough. Enough to signal to the brain, we're processing now. Let's not multitask. Let's rest while the system takes care of itself. This is why eating something small and warm before bed, especially something gentle, can help the body shift towards sleep. Not because the food is magical, but because the body, when engaged in slow, familiar work, tends to quiet itself naturally. That's what's happening now. You may feel it as a kind of softness in your belly. Not pressure, not fullness, just presence. As if the center of you is carrying a small, warm lantern, glowing steadily in the dark. It's not something you need to manage. You don't need to speed it up or slow it down. You're not meant to control it. You're only meant to notice, if you want, to allow, to follow the rhythm. And in the stillness of your room, where the light has dimmed and the air is still, your inner world is quietly alive with motion, soft, circular, essential. Digestion is often overlooked in our discussions of rest, but it is, in many ways, a mirror of sleep. Both are about release, about surrender, about trusting the body to do what it knows. And when the two happen together, digestion and drifting off, it's like a duet being played in slow motion, a harmony of warmth and rest, a physical melody that lulls every cell into softness. So tonight, as your body continues its quiet alchemy, you can let go even more. You've done your part, you've sipped, you've sat still, you've allowed the warmth in, and now your body takes it from here. In the next breath, we'll begin to explore why this warmth, this inner glow, brings with it such a sense of safety. Why heat, when held just right, calms not only the body, but the mind. Why it tells every part of you, you are home, but for now, let the dance continue. Let the current carry you. Let the slow digestion of milk become one more soft step towards sleep. You feel it first in your chest, not as emotion, necessarily, though sometimes it is that too, but as a gentle heat, spreading slowly from your center outward. Not the kind of heat that burns or pushes, but the kind that simply is. The kind that asks nothing. The kind that says, stay. This warmth is one of your oldest signals. From the very beginning, the body has known what warmth means. In the earliest moments of life, you were cradled in it, not just the heat of another's skin, but the shelter it represented. Food came warm, breath came warm, safety came warm, and so, even now, years and miles from that beginning, your body still listens for that signal, and warm milk offers it, without question. You may not realize it, but the temperature of what you consume carries meaning. Cold things can startle, alert, sharpen. They call attention to themselves. But warm things, especially warm liquids, do the opposite. They settle into the body with grace. They say, this is familiar, this is safe. There is nothing to do now but rest. It's not just emotional, it's physiological. When your skin senses warmth from a drink, a blanket, a bath, it responds by dilating blood vessels close to the surface. This is called peripheral vasodilation, and it helps heat escape the core of your body. That may sound counterintuitive, but it's exactly what your system needs before sleep, because when your core body temperature begins to drop, even just slightly, the body takes that as a cue. a message, a nighttime whisper. It's time. This cooling doesn't need to be dramatic. In fact, the most restful transitions are subtle, just a half-degree change, enough to encourage melatonin production, to slow the metabolism, to tell the muscles and mind that their work is done. Warm milk supports this process beautifully. The heat of the liquid raises the body's surface warmth briefly, encouraging that quiet internal shift. And as the warmth fades from your hands, from your throat, from your belly, the drop in temperature deepens your readiness to sleep. But there's another layer to all of this, one that isn't about biology so much as meaning. Warmth has always been the language of closeness, of care. You reach for warmth when you're cold, yes, but also when you're lonely, when you're tired, when you need reassurance that the world isn't as sharp as it sometimes seems. Think of how often warmth shows up in our metaphors. We speak of warm memories, warm welcomes, warm hearts. We light candles. We gather near fire. We heat milk. It's a symbolic act as much as a physical one. To give yourself something warm at the end of the day, especially something soft, unhurried, and familiar, is to tell your body, you are not in danger. You are not being chased. You are not performing. You are not required to hold yourself upright against the noise. You are simply here, and you are allowed to rest. Even if you've never thought about it this way before, your body knows. It feels that message in your skin, your breath, your blood. The nervous system responds not with words, but with a shift in state, from alertness to ease, from watching to closing, from guarding to opening. That's the journey you're already on. It's also why so many people instinctively wrap their hands around a warm mug, even if they don't drink from it right away. The act of holding something warm sends calming signals to the brain. It grounds you in the moment. It reminds you that the environment around you is not hostile, that there's no need to run, react, or resist. In a way, warm milk functions like a blanket, but from the inside, it reaches the same places. It tells the same story. And the story is always this: you're safe enough now to let go. There's a beautiful paradox here, that by heating something up, you help your body cool down. That by taking something in, you're actually inviting release. And this paradox is mirrored in so many sleep rituals. We dim the lights to see more clearly inside ourselves. We quiet the room to hear the rhythm of our own breath. We close our eyes to return to the most vivid inner landscapes. We drink something warm to prepare for cooling rest. These gentle contradictions are not flaws. They're reminders that the body doesn't work through logic alone. It works through feeling, through rhythm, through centuries of learned safety. That's what this warmth is tapping into. So, if you feel it now, a glow behind your ribs, or a softness in your limbs, know that it's not just digestion, or blood flow, or chemistry. It's memory. It's trust. It's your body remembering that it's okay to slow down. In this moment, you are not behind. You are not being judged. You are not a list of tasks. You are a quiet being, wrapped in warmth, watched over by breath and darkness and stillness. Soon, we'll step into that darkness more deeply, into the brain's own nighttime routine, into the gentle shift in chemicals and rhythms that unfold once sleep has fully arrived. But for now, stay here, with the last of the heat still fading from your center, with your breath low and soft, with the steady understanding that you are safe and your body knows it. Let the warmth guide you. Let it melt the edges. Let it say, without ever needing to speak, that tonight, you don't have to hold on. Sleep is close, and warmth has already opened the door. Now the warmth begins to fade, but not entirely, not all at once. It doesn't vanish. It simply changes shape. What was once a cup in your hands, a feeling in your chest, becomes something more internal, a hush, deep inside, a quiet rearranging of the systems that once carried you through the day. You may not notice the transition. Most people don't. It's subtle, gentle, but it is happening, right now, within you. A shift is underway. A shift from daytime chemistry to nighttime chemistry, a silent pivot in the laboratory of your body. This isn't a metaphor. Your brain and body are, in many ways, a living chemistry set, but not one of explosions and smoke, no beakers or bubbling flasks, just hormones, enzymes, messengers, quietly working behind the scenes to prepare you for sleep. Melatonin, the hormone we met earlier, is now reaching its peak. Like moonlight filling a darkened room, it spreads throughout your bloodstream, telling every cell it's time. Not with force, not with urgency, but with confidence. It's a confident kind of quiet, the kind that comes from knowing exactly what's needed and when. But melatonin isn't working alone. It's part of a larger orchestra. And this part of the night, just before you cross fully into sleep, is when all the players gather. Cortisol, the alertness hormone, is dropping now. It rises with the sun, helping you wake, helping you respond. But as night deepens, cortisol retreats. The stage is cleared, the lights are dimmed, and melatonin steps forward. At the same time, your body begins to increase levels of adenosine, a molecule that builds gradually throughout the day. Adenosine is like gravity for your brain. The more you have, the more your body longs for rest. And by now, if your day has been full and your evening slow, your adenosine levels are ready, heavy, anchoring. You may feel it as a weight in your limbs, as a softness in your thoughts, as the simple inability to keep your eyes open for very much longer. And it's not just the brain that responds. Your heart rate continues to slow. Your body temperature, gently lowered by the earlier warmth, has dipped a little further. Muscles throughout your frame release tension you didn't even know you were holding. Even your immune system begins to shift, subtly boosting certain protective processes that work best while you sleep. Repair, regeneration, quiet maintenance. The body using its nighttime hours to heal in ways the daylight doesn't allow. All of this is coordinated, all of it timed. Your body is waited for this. And warm milk, soft in texture, calming in chemistry, rhythmic in ritual, helped lead you here. That single cup wasn't just a comfort. It was a cue, a messenger, a signal to the brain and body. Begin the transformation, not into something other, but into your quietest self. And now, the chemistry of night has taken over. You are no longer in the part of the day defined by doing, achieving, fixing, or rushing. You are now in the part of the day made for becoming soft, for going inward, for floating. This floating feeling, this dreamy sense of being between, is not just poetic, it's neurological. Your brain waves are beginning to change, from the fast, focused beta waves of your daytime hours, to the slower, more meditative alpha waves, and soon, into the slow-rolling delta and theta waves that define sleep. These brain waves are the sound of rest. Not literal sound, of course, but patterns of electricity that reveal your brain's shifting state. A kind of signal in the dark that sleep is not just near, it's beginning. You may feel yourself drifting now, not just mentally, but physically. Your body feels heavier. Your thoughts begin to wander without direction or urgency. You forget what you were thinking, and you don't mind. This is the chemical handoff. This is the place between intention and surrender. And there is still more beauty in the body's design, because just before full sleep, your brain begins to reduce sensory processing. External sounds become muffled. Internal chatter grows faint. Your awareness turns inward, not as escape, but as protection, as preparation. Even the vestibular system, the part of your brain that tracks balance and motion, begins to relax, which is why, sometimes, in these moments, you might feel as if you're gently swaying, as if your body is floating just slightly above the bed, not flying, not falling, just weightless, a passenger in your own stillness. And still, behind all of this, the milk continues to do its quiet work. Tryptophan converted to serotonin. Serotonin shaped into melatonin. GABA receptors calmed by digestion. Temperature lowered by warmth. Adenosine rising. Cortisol falling. The perfect storm. If one could call something so soft a storm at all, it's not a miracle. It's not magic, it's rhythm. It's design. It's your body remembering how to rest. And the milk? It was simply a key, a soft click that unlocked the doorway to this entire cascade. Now, you don't have to think about enzymes or neurotransmitters or wave frequencies. You don't have to understand the full science. Your body is handling it, elegantly, silently. All you have to do is keep letting go. Because in the next section, we'll explore why cold milk doesn't quite do the same, why temperature matters, why warmth is more than preference. It's physiological, emotional, ancestral. But you don't have to rush there. There's no rush at all. Stay here, in the chemistry of quiet. Let the nighttime systems continue their gentle unfolding. Let your breath follow the rhythm of melatonin's whisper. You are not alone. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are simply a body, wise and ancient, returning to its most essential state, stillness. You may have tried it before, reaching into the fridge, pulling out a cool glass of milk late at night, hoping for the same softness, the same hush, the same drift into sleep, and maybe it helped, a little. Maybe it was better than nothing, but something about it felt different. Not wrong, exactly. Just less. And now, after everything your body has done, after warmth turned into chemical, and chemical turned into calm, you begin to understand why. Because cold milk doesn't send the same signals. In fact, it sends a few that say the opposite. Your body reads temperature, not just with your skin, but internally, all the way down. When you consume something cold, it's not just a physical sensation. It's a message that says, wake up, pay attention, adjust. You may not be conscious of it, but your core body temperature is always monitored, always protected. Your body tries to keep it stable, around 98, 6 degrees Fahrenheit. So when you introduce something cold, the system briefly tightens. It responds. Muscles might tense. Heart rate can increase ever so slightly. The digestive process may even pause for a beat as your body assesses what's entering. And at night, this kind of stimulation, though small, is just enough to interrupt the soft descent into sleep. Because remember, rest isn't forced, it's invited. And cold milk, while still nutritious, doesn't extend that same quiet invitation. It startles, if only slightly, like a knock at the door instead of a gentle opening. This has nothing to do with the milk's content. Cold milk still contains tryptophan, still has calcium, still offers the nutrients your body needs. But without warmth, the context shifts. The cup doesn't steam. Your hands don't wrap around it in quite the same way. The sip doesn't settle, it snaps. And your body notices. There's also the sensory element. Cold is sharp. It hits the back of the throat with a crispness that the nervous system interprets as alerting. The vagus nerve, the one that connects your brain to your gut, can be lightly stimulated by cold, especially in the throat and chest. This can lead to a small but real increase in arousal. Not emotional arousal, necessarily, just alertness, wakefulness. Not exactly the bedtime story you were hoping for. You might feel it in the way your eyes resist closing afterward, or how your breath doesn't deepen, or how thoughts begin to pick up speed again, as if the quiet was momentarily interrupted. There's also the absence of the physical cascade we've come to associate with warmth. Cold milk doesn't help dilate blood vessels. It doesn't contribute to a gradual drop in core body temperature. Instead, it often causes the opposite, a slight constriction, a brief effort to warm the body back up. It's not dangerous, but it's not helpful either. And beyond the biology, there's the emotional experience. Cold milk feels different. It carries different associations. For many, it's connected with energy, with meals, with alertness, with breakfast, not bedtime, with action, not surrender. Warmth, as you felt, is ancestral. It's elemental. It's woven into the language of comfort and safety. And when you remove that warmth, you remove something more than temperature. You remove context. The body doesn't need explanations. It responds to patterns. And cold milk disrupts that pattern just enough to make a difference. Of course, for some, the cold may still be soothing. Everyone's body responds a little differently. Maybe for you, the chilled sip brings a moment of calm. Maybe it reminds you of something soft, something tender. Maybe the temperature doesn't matter quite so much. But more often than not, the warmth is what carries the message. There's a reason tea is served hot, why soup comforts more in winter, why a warm bath can undo an entire day's worth of tension in 10 minutes. The body listens to heat, not just as sensation, but as language. So, when you choose warm milk, you're not just choosing nutrition, you're choosing the tone of the message. You're choosing a softness your body has known since before it had words to name it. And you're making the job of rest just a little bit easier. It's also worth noting that the very act of heating something changes how we interact with it. You don't gulp warm milk, you sip it, slowly, mindfully. Heating the milk invites presence. You wait for the temperature to be just right. You hold it gently. You pay attention. That attentiveness alone is part of the ritual. It slows the body before a single drop touches your lips. With cold milk, there's less pause. It's efficient, straight from the fridge, straight to the glass, straight down. Useful, yes, but not restful. Warmth invites patience. Cold invites speed. And sleep never rushes. It prefers the slow route. So, if you've ever wondered why the ritual of warm milk is more than tradition, more than a myth passed down through generations, this is why. Because the temperature matters. Not just to the tongue, but to the nervous system, to the breath, to the heart, to the story your body tells itself as you prepare to let go. It's the difference between being fed and being soothed, between drinking something and being comforted by it, between ending the day and truly closing it. You may never have thought about it before now. You may have believed the magic was in the milk itself, and to some extent, it is. But the warmth, that's the invitation. And tonight, you answered it. In the next moment, we'll explore how other cultures have answered it too. The different ways warm milk shows up around the world. The flavors, the names, the rituals, the shared human instinct to turn towards something soft at the end of the day. But for now, notice the stillness again. The way the body quiets in response to heat, the way the breath settles, the way the mind releases, just a little more. Let it continue, let it deepen, let it carry you. Warmth still lingers, and sleep is close behind. You're not the only one who's ever reached for something warm in the dark. Long before electricity, before clocks and screens and sleep studies, people everywhere had their own quiet ways of welcoming rest. And even now, across the world, there are small nighttime rituals, some old, some new, built around the simple act of sipping something warm before sleep. Tonight, you're part of that lineage. You, with your quiet cup and softened breath, are holding a thread that stretches across generations, continents, and traditions. And the thread, it's not just milk, it's warmth, it's rhythm. It's the human instinct to soothe the self, not with noise, but with stillness, not with urgency, but with care. In India, for example, there is haldi doodh, golden milk, a mixture of warm milk, turmeric, black pepper, and sometimes cardamom or honey. It's not just a drink, but a comfort passed down through families. Sipped slowly at bedtime, it's believed to calm the body, ease inflammation, and prepare the mind for rest. The turmeric gives it a golden hue, but the glow it leaves inside is deeper, a softness that lingers in the belly long after the cup is empty. And like your own cup tonight, it's less about the ingredients and more about what it represents. Safety, connection, a returning to the body. In Japan, warm milk is often paired with a tiny dash of sugar or honey, served plain and simple, especially to children before bed. It isn't elaborate. That's part of its charm. The simplicity becomes its own kind of ritual, something quiet to close the day, something gentle to hold the space between waking and sleep. In Scandinavian countries, there's a soft, starchy drink called välling. Warm milk thickened with a bit of grain, often oats or rice. Traditionally given to babies and toddlers, it still finds its way into adult routines for those who remember the way it made them feel. Full, warm, safe. It's not uncommon to find people in Sweden or Finland quietly sipping välling in the evening, not because they need it, but because it brings back a softness that's hard to find elsewhere. Even in the Middle East, milk often takes on a soothing role at night. Sahlab, for instance, a warm, creamy drink made with milk and orchid root starch, flavored with rose water and topped with cinnamon or pistachios. It's indulgent, yes, but more than that, it's grounding, served in cafes and kitchens alike. It's a drink for lingering, for lowering the voice, for winding down. Across Latin America, you'll find leche con canela, milk gently simmered with cinnamon sticks, sometimes sweetened with piloncillo, an unrefined sugar. The smell alone is enough to slow a racing mind. And the act of making it, warming the pot, waiting for the bubbles, watching the spice unfurl, becomes part of the letting go. In these rituals, the milk isn't always the same. The spices shift. The preparation varies, but the purpose remains: to soothe, to signal, to care. And even in cultures where milk itself isn't as central, the instinct to warm something and sip it slowly before sleep still appears. Herbal teas, broths, infusions, warm rice porridge, thin soups. The form changes, but the function stays. Give the body something gentle, something familiar, something warm, and let it rest. You might be surprised at how universal this need is. Across languages and regions, people prepare their bodies for sleep in remarkably similar ways. It's as if we all carry the same bedtime blueprint, written not in words, but in sensations. Warmth, slowness, repetition, quiet. And when you sip warm milk at the end of the day, you're not just following a routine, you're stepping into a shared human story, one where care is remembered, one where small gestures hold great weight, one where the body is treated not as a machine to shut down, but as a guest to be welcomed into stillness. Even the act of preparing warm milk, of heating it, holding it, sipping it slowly, carries echoes of all these other kitchens, these other homes. You're stirring the same kind of quiet that others have stirred before you. You're echoing their softness, their care. And in a world that often rushes, that often forgets the value of slowness, that kind of shared softness is rare. Tonight, you've chosen it, and your body knows it. You may not be able to name the drink from Turkey, or the spice blend from India, or the grain used in Northern Europe, but you don't need to. Your nervous system understands. Your breath understands. The way your shoulders have dropped, the way your thoughts have thinned, that's understanding. It's not the ingredients that matter most. It's the ritual, the pause, the warmth. So, whether your milk was plain or spiced, cows or oat, sweetened or not, the result is the same. A message delivered, a body answered, a softness accepted. You might even feel, somewhere inside you, the presence of others doing the same. Quiet kitchens, dim lights, the sound of a spoon in a cup, the hush that follows a final sip. You are not alone in this, and tomorrow, someone else will stand by a stove or lean over a kettle. They'll pour, they'll stir, they'll breathe in the steam, and in doing so, they'll step into the same rhythm you're moving through now. The rhythm of rest, the rhythm of return. In the next section, we'll reflect on how science is only now catching up to what our ancestors seemed to know instinctively, that warmth, repetition, and nourishment at night do something powerful for the human spirit. But for now, stay here. In this moment that belongs not just to you, but to so many. In this act that spans languages, time zones, and centuries. A cup, a breath, a quiet unfolding. Let it continue. Let it deepen. Let it carry you home. You may be wondering how something so simple, so ancient and soft, could hold such real weight. After all, in today's world, comfort is rarely considered evidence. Tradition is rarely viewed as science. But perhaps that's starting to change. Because while warm milk has long held its place in folklore and family kitchens, modern science has only recently begun to map the pathways that connect warmth, nourishment, and rest. And the more we learn, the more it becomes clear. What we've done for centuries may not have needed proof, but now it has it. Let's start with rhythm. Your body is built on it. Circadian rhythm, to be precise. A 24-hour cycle that regulates sleep, hormone release, digestion, and even body temperature. It's not a loose guideline, it's a tightly coordinated system. One that responds to light, to behavior, to timing. And when you drink warm milk at night, especially at the same time each evening, you're reinforcing that rhythm. You're aligning behavior with biology. And your brain notices. It sees the pattern, warmth in the belly, dim lights overhead, quiet surroundings, the slowing of speech and thought. These cues stack. They build a sense of predictability, and predictability to the nervous system feels like safety. And safety is the foundation of sleep. The science of sleep hygiene supports this. Researchers have found that pre-bed routines, especially those involving warmth and sensory cues, can significantly reduce the time it takes to fall asleep. It doesn't have to be elaborate. Even just the act of holding a warm cup, breathing slowly, dimming the lights, and stepping away from screens can tip the balance. And milk, interestingly, checks several boxes. It's hydrating. It's nourishing. It contains sleep-supporting compounds. And it encourages stillness. But beyond what's in the milk, science is looking more closely at what the milk does. For example, warming up the body, whether through a hot bath, a heating pad, or a warm drink, triggers a paradoxical drop in core body temperature. This cooling is actually what prepares the body for deep sleep. The warmth draws blood to the surface of the skin, which then radiates heat outward, allowing your core to cool. That's why sipping warm milk is more than just soothing. It may physiologically support your body's transition into rest. There's also research into the relationship between warmth and oxytocin, the cuddle hormone, as it's sometimes called. Oxytocin is released during moments of trust, care, and touch, but it can also be stimulated by warmth. The kind of warmth that mimics physical closeness. The kind of warmth you might feel while wrapped in a blanket, or cupping a mug in both hands. This hormone doesn't knock you out like a sedative. It works more quietly, creating a background feeling of calm, of being held, of being safe. And in that emotional quiet, sleep finds space to arrive. The science doesn't stop there. Studies on sensory priming show that when a specific scent or flavor becomes associated with sleep, the body begins to respond automatically. It's not just about the milk anymore. It's about what the milk means to you. If, over time, warm milk becomes part of your evening cue, your brain begins to anticipate rest as soon as the ritual begins. Even the smell or sound of it warming on the stove can trigger a gentle cascade of relaxation. So, yes, your instincts were right, and so were your grandmother's, and her grandmother's before her. Because long before we could measure melatonin levels or track sleep cycles with devices, people simply observed. They noticed what helped. They passed it down. They trusted the body's soft wisdom. And now, in labs and sleep clinics and university studies, science is nodding in agreement. What once felt like folklore now rests on neuroscience. What once sounded like myth is supported by hormones. What once was ritual is also regulation. It's a humbling reminder that knowledge doesn't always begin in the lab. Sometimes it begins in a quiet room with a warm drink and the willingness to listen. And maybe that's the most beautiful part of all, because it means you don't have to choose between wisdom and science, between comfort and data, between tradition and truth. Sometimes they're the same thing, spoken in different languages. So tonight, as you continue to drift, you can carry both, the feeling and the fact, the story and the study. You are not doing something silly or superstitious or small. You are participating in a long human practice, one that science is only beginning to fully appreciate. And maybe, just maybe, the science will keep following, mapping out more of what we already feel, naming the processes that love has always understood, explaining the quiet that warm milk brings not with fireworks, but with deepening waves. Because science is not only about what is measurable, it's also about what matters. And what matters most, at the end of the day, is not just that you fall asleep, but that you feel safe doing so. That your body is invited, not forced. That your mind is guided, not silenced. That you feel held by knowledge, by care, by warmth. In the final section, we'll let everything go. We'll slow the pace, dim the light, and let the last soft ideas of the night settle like snowflakes on a still field. But for now, take one more breath. Let the science rest beside the softness. Let your body keep doing what it knows how to do. And let yourself sink into the space between awareness and dream. Warm milk may have brought you here, but now something deeper is carrying you onward. And now, here you are, not fully awake, not quite asleep, somewhere in the hush between thought and dreaming, where words grow soft around the edges, where breath drapes itself like silk across your ribs, where warmth is no longer something you drink, but something you are. You've come far, haven't you? From kitchens long gone and molecules in motion, to oxytocin and golden milk, to memory and mammals and rituals repeated. You've traveled across continents and back through time, and all without leaving your pillow. And all because of one simple question. Why does warm milk make you sleepy? We've touched on tryptophan and serotonin, melatonin and magnesium. We've wandered through history and culture, through science and feeling, and again, we've returned to the same truth. Warmth is not just temperature, it's language, it's memory, it's care made visible. And in the stillness of this moment, with your breath slow and your body heavy, that care lingers. Maybe you didn't even finish your cup. Maybe it's still sitting somewhere nearby, cooling slowly, like the final notes of a lullaby. That's all right. You've already received what it offered. The warmth is inside you now. It always was. Because what warm milk reminds us, gently, quietly, is that the body knows how to rest. It only needs the right invitation, the right softness, the right sense of being allowed to let go. And tonight, you gave yourself that permission. That might be the most powerful thing of all, not the chemistry, not the neuroscience, but the choice, the quiet, deliberate act of care, of setting down the day, of choosing stillness over scrolling, silence over stimulation, a cup of warmth over the endless, glowing hum of things unfinished. This is where sleep begins, not with force, not with frustration, but with the simple act of returning to your body, to your breath, to something small and soft and warm. And as you settle even deeper now, you may notice the world beginning to drift, sounds blurring, thoughts unwinding, the room stretching wide and hushed like a sky before dawn. There's no need to follow the next idea, no need to reach for more understanding. You've gathered enough. Let the rest stay unwritten. Let the questions pause. Let the answers fade. Let yourself soften into not knowing. You are not required to stay awake. You are not expected to hold anything. You may let go completely now, because rest isn't a destination. It's a descent, and you are already descending, breath by breath, blink by blink, into something quiet and whole and yours. This is the gift of warmth, the echo of every bedtime past, the voice, maybe imagined, that once whispered, "You're safe now. You can rest, and you've done enough. You've thought enough. You've cared enough." Even if sleep hasn't fully arrived yet, you are on its threshold, and that is a kind of victory, a kind of arrival. Let your thoughts grow looser. Let your fingers uncoil. Let your heart slow into its own lullaby. Somewhere, the stars continue their patient spinning. Somewhere, other cups are being warmed, other beds turned down, other breaths deepened. You are part of that rhythm now, a single, gentle note in the long symphony of rest. Let the story dissolve. Let the milk's warmth remain. Let sleep carry you the rest of the way. And if, by some chance, you're still here, still barely tethered to the waking world, just know this: you are not behind, you are not failing, you are simply floating. This is what it feels like to be close to peace, so close you can feel it on your skin. And when it comes, as it will, let it arrive without ceremony. Let it land like snow. Let it fall through you like quiet light. No need to chase it, no need to name it. Just let it come. And in the meantime, thank you for joining me tonight. Thank you for listening, for caring, for being part of this moment, whether you are already asleep or still gently drifting. I hope you feel held. This has been The Quiet Scientist, and this has been your story.